Let's go! Woo! Time to bring out the beers, baby. We got the Budweiser bottle today. The Winnipeg Jets are going to win the Stanley Cup. We are the greatest hockey team ever assembled. Evgeny Svechnikov, Jansen Harkins, and Cole fucking Perfetti are the greatest Winnipeg Jets to ever go on the ice for this team in any history. Bobby Hall, who? Teemu Selanne, who? Dale Howardchuk, who? Get out of here with that. Woo! Alright, now that I've calmed down, let's actually talk about this game, because the Winnipeg Jets just had their best performance of the preseason so far, even though they've only played 2 games, and that's not saying much, but either way, this was a fantastic game, and before we jump into it, there's one thing I gotta say. This Edmonton Oilers team that the Jets played tonight was trash. It was absolute dog shit. This was not an NHL caliber team. This wasn't even an AHL caliber team, in my opinion. This was not a good team, so everything I'm saying, take it with a little grain of salt, because obviously when you're playing a team that bad, you're going to perform pretty well, especially considering the Jets actually rolled out their assistant captain and their all their actual guys with letters, which is crazy when you think about it. Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, and Josh Morrissey all played in this game, so the Jets had a lot of regulars, not to mention they had a Vezina winning goaltender, so take all those variables into consideration when I go through this game, because holy crap, Cole Perfetti needs to play on the Winnipeg Jets. I know I've said that I wouldn't mind to see him play on the Moose. Development's good, and I really mean that. I would not be upset if Cole Perfetti played on the Moose, because I think that would be great for his development, because he's already fantastic now. This kid on that line today, let's go over the lines, obviously, before we jump into it. Kyle Connor playing with Scheifele and Wheeler on that top line, Stastny with Lowry and Vesalainen on that second, Harkins, Perfetti, and Svechnikov on the third line, which was honestly our first line from the moment puck dropped in the first to the end of the game, with that buzzer in the third. It was fantastic. And then I'm not even going to try to pronounce these guys' names. Isimont, Gustafsson, and Poganski, I think is how they pronounce those guys' names. Obviously, Gustafsson I'm familiar with, but not too familiar with the other 2 guys. But other than that, I still thought everyone played a pretty good game. Morrissey with Schmidt. We're going to be talking about Schmidt. And obviously, Hanila with DeMello and Stanley with Kovincenci. God, my pronunciation's so bad. I'm just so excited. This was a great game. I'm going to start it off great with the first. Perfetti had a great start to this game. And not just Perfetti. That Perfetti, Harkins, and Svechnikov line was fantastic. Harkins opens the scoring, I think, a minute and a half into the game. He gets that goal, makes it 1-0, and the building erupts. You have that energy, and they're playing fantastic hockey. Not to mention the fact that the defense is moving great with the rush. That's one thing I said that the defense of the Jets have had for the last couple seasons has been notorious for. They do not support the offensive forwards in the rush. They hang back, and they don't join in as much as they should, especially considering that Neil Pionk, Josh Morrissey, even Dylan Mello, a guy who doesn't put up a lot of points, isn't that terrible. The Jets have these good players that can put in shots, that can help join the rush, and now that you bring in Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, who had a fantastic game and is an amazing character off the ice as well. That interview he gave with Sarah Leskiak in between the second and third. Excuse me, I'm just coughing up a storm over here. But either way, that interview he gave with Sarah Alexiak in between the second and third, I think, was awesome. He had so much character, and he was just such a great personality, and that's just something you want to see from a guy who you bring in a trade, a big piece of this team going forward, and he was great as well. Nate Schmidt was fantastic today. Honestly, the only thing that I didn't like with the defense today, honestly, was Josh Morrissey at times on power play 1, and just throughout the game, Josh Morrissey just looked to that, Josh Morrissey struggle that he had at some points last season and the year before that. But I feel like pressure is going to be slowly taken off of him. He wasn't horrible, he wasn't terrible, but he's obviously going to have to get a little bit better to be worth that contract, and also to really be warranted that A on his jersey, and to play at the level we know he can play at. So Josh Morrissey, note of the game, get your shit together a little bit more, because you're already getting better. I can see it from game 1 and game 2, but just work on that stuff, man. Just work on your confidence. You got to get that back. You're still a good defender, and you have the help. You're not all that pressure on you anymore. But moving away from that, this team, I don't even know what to talk about in this game. I feel like I could just spend the entire video talking about how good Harkins, Perfetti, and Svechnikov was. They were absolutely insane. At one point in the game, that line had combined for 7 points, I believe midway through the second. And to end that game, it was even crazier. The Winnipeg Jets, to end that game, Jansen Harkins ended it with 3 points. Let me find the other. Evgeny Svechnikov had 3 points as well, and Cole Perfetti had an assist. What a game for that line. That was a third line, not to mention. So, absolutely fantastic. And honestly, Jansen Harkins and Evgeny Svechnikov have been playing fantastic. Not to mention, Cole Perfetti was pretty damn solid as well in Game 1. So if you have all of these 3 guys what do you do? What do you do if you're Paul Maurice? Because going into this preseason, I suspected that the fourth line would look with Jansen Harkins, Gustafsson, and Riley Nash. Obviously, there's a third line. You know you're going to have Adam Lowry in there, Christian Vesalainen, Evgeny Svechnikov. All these guys could potentially be going in there, but we didn't really know what that held just yet. And now you have this line clicking this good. Now, like I said at the start of the video, take everything with a grain of salt, because even though they've had, 7, 8 points in this game, which is fantastic, let's see how they play against a team that is more NHL ready and NHL caliber compared to this version of the Oilers that we saw today. When we go in and we play the Canucks and the Oilers coming into this back-to-back on the weekend, I believe it is. If it's not Calgary, I think it's the Oilers and the Canucks. Either way, that will be a really good test, I feel like, because one, you're most likely not going to have Connor Hellebuck in net, and two, since it's going to be back-to-back on the road, that could be a really good test for some of these young guys to see how they can play and how well their game measures up against back-to-back situations. So I'm looking really forward to see how these guys are going to play coming into this weekend, and then also going into the last couple of games against Calgary and round up the preseason, because I guarantee you those last 2 games of the preseason will be our version of our NHL team. Paul Maurice likes to send out what he wants to have on day 1 of the regular season in the last couple of games of preseason. He's also a coach that likes to play his goalies the entire time. You guys might be noticing that trend of a lot of coaches switching out goalies every period. Paul Maurice likes the guys to play 60 minutes, which I think is good. Let every goalie play at least one game, a full game, give them that confidence, let them settle into a full 60 minutes of concentration. I think that's the best for trying to win and also get them into that right mindset to win, especially considering that Eric Comrie was okay in game 1. He wasn't terrible, he wasn't horrible, but obviously I want to see him be a little bit more stable. But Mikhail Bird is the interesting player to see. I think that this game, against that Saturday game against the Canucks, or Sunday game, excuse me, he could draw in there maybe potentially, so he'll be an interesting person to see. But other than that, this game was awesome. It really was. There's nothing else I could say that, recaps this game and to my reaction to it better than it was awesome. This was everything that I want to see out of Game 1. Even though Game 1 had its moments, this was what I thought the Jets could do in a preseason with the guys that they could potentially roll out. Obviously, like I said, grain of salt with that Edmonton lineup and who they had on the ice tonight, but Svechnikov has been solid, if not even better than solid, for the last couple of games. He could easily, if he continues to play like this, he could find himself in the top 6 potentially, and then you could bump down Paul Stastny, like I said in my lineup prediction, because Paul Stastny is a gem and he can play anywhere within your top 9 for forwards. But Svechnikov could be a complete wild card. I thought Christian Vesalainen was going to make a big push for us this year. This kid, I'm not joking when I say this. This could be one of the biggest surprise signings and just underdog performances coming into the season. I genuinely mean that. He has been fantastic and done everything right, in my opinion, going into this first couple games of preseason, and that's important. When you come off of an injury, when you come off of a team that didn't really play a lot, and when you also don't have a lot of confidence because of the situation you came from, to jump into a brand new organization like this and play that well, it's incredible. Not to mention that Cole Perfetti is an underaged AHL player, and now he can be pushing for the NHL. Like, hell, I'm pretty sure the guy's younger than my little sister, and he could be potentially pushing the NHL already. Like, this is insane. We drafted this guy 2 years ago. He wasn't even supposed to play in the AHL, and he is so composed. He's so deadly with the puck. Not to mention that when he gets in tight, his stick blade, with the way that it moves, the way that he handles the puck, especially in traffic, especially when he's in front of the net, when he's trying to make a play in the corners, whatever the situation might be, if Cole Perfetti is under pressure, it might look like he's under all the pressure in the world, but he must not feel any of it, because the guy is so composed for such a young, non-experienced NHL-type player at this point, and I just can't believe how good he's been for us these last couple of games. I really think that this young team is going to surprise Paul Maurice, and I think we're going to actually finally see some youth push into this lineup this year. I genuinely think that. And if you're Paul Maurice and you're looking at this performance, and this continues throughout preseason, how do you not justify bringing in these guys to the regular season and at least trying them out? Now, I'm not talking about Ville Heinola, because Ville, again, had a better game than what it was last game, excuse me, but he wasn't fantastic. Stanley was also not fantastic tonight either, but he wasn't bad. I like Dylan Mello for the most part, obviously shaking off a little bit of rust, but Nate Schmidt was Nate Schmidt. He didn't do anything bad. He didn't do anything amazing, but he was what I wanted to see out of Nate Schmidt, a very comfortable person, having a good time, and I think he's only going to get more confident and start showing exactly what he can bring to this team offensively as time goes on. This was a great game for the Winnipeg Jets. This is a great Game 2 of your preseason. You're almost halfway through the preseason, and you have a performance like this, a ton of young guys. It was good. The only negative I can point out from this game, and I know you guys hate when I hark on a negative in a game like this where there's a lot of positives, but Blake Wheeler Wheeler. Blake Wheeler was slow, and it didn't look like rust, it looked like age. And that's going to be worrisome, especially if Paul Maurice refuses to drop him down from that first line. If we roll out a first line of Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler this year, and that is exactly what potentially could happen, that will really fuck up our chances of being an elite top team in the Central and within the rest of the NHL. And I genuinely mean that. Blake Wheeler, at that point, and how slow he was in this game and how he looked, he will just slow down Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor to the point where they really won't have as much success as they would playing with another guy like Nikolai Ehlers potentially. Now again, preseason, take everything with a grain of salt, and also, none of this matters. It's just preseason. Blake Wheeler could just be rust, but to me, that looked like age more than anything, so it's worrisome in my opinion, but other than that, we have to wait and see how he looks progressing into the regular season and how he looks progressing into the last few games of the preseason. And with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your favorite moment from the game down in the comment section below. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and check out all my other affiliated links down in the description. Have a great rest of your day, or great rest of your evening, I guess, since this video is actually coming out after the game instead of the last one. But either way, have a great rest of your night. Peace, love, and positivity to all you beautiful people out there. And most importantly, go Jets, go!